Just relax. Yeah, you do that. You go to work. You enjoy your time. You go to work.
We're looking at adding swimming
Man,
lessons to it.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 7th, 2023 City of Minot Planning Commissioning meeting. Call the roll.
Bauman,
Present.
Domes,
Present.
Bacon, Gates,
Here.
Hoghalter, Iverson,
Here.
Kibler,
Here.
Leiter,
Here.
Longton, Minham,
Here.
Nesdal,
Here.
Offerdahl,
Here.
and Pontanilla.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, we have a quorum. Everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to item number 4 on our agenda tonight. Approval of the February 7th regular meeting minutes.
I'll move to approve.
Move to approve as presented, Commissioner Bauman.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve by Commissioner Bauman, second by Commissioner Kibler. Any discussion? All right, no discussion, call the roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Domes, Bacon, Gates,
Yes.
Iverson, Kibler,
Yes.
Leiter,
Yes.
Minham,
Yes.
Nesdal,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
and Pontanilla.
All right. Moving right along on agenda item number 5, zoning amendment map, Norton's Edition, public hearing request by Harry Travis Mowbray on behalf of Mowbray Properties LLC for zoning map amendment from C2 General Commercial District to M1 Light Industrial District for the purpose of a business expansion. I believe we're going to waive the information from the city staff on this one. So is there any questions for the staff, I should say? Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just out of curious, why are we waiving the city staff report on this? Just not necessary, or?
Correct. It's kind of the, what do we call that?
Yeah, so Chairman Offerdahl, Commissioner Kibler, so when there's been, it's almost a repetitive application. So we evaluated Mowbray's initial rezone to industrial a couple years ago. I know that about half of the commission is new. This is literally the adjacent property, same circumstances, same everything. In fact, the new comprehensive plan that's likely to be adopted in the coming months reflects the future land use designation that Mowbray is seeking right now. And so everything kind of aligns. So typically, if it's something that's relatively benign and we've hashed it out at the commission level previously, we just don't go into tremendous detail. That's what the written report's for, so I won't spend a lot of time rehashing the written report with the verbal report. That's all, just for the sake of time, knowing that some people tonight have limited time in being here tonight. So that kind of summarizes why we're waiving the staff's verbal presentation.
And maybe on my path, waiving is a bad word, maybe abbreviated. Sorry about that. Any other questions for city staff? With that, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody in attendance that wishes to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Anybody that wishes to speak in opposition of this agenda item? Anybody wish to speak on behalf or against this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Turn it over to the commissioners for a motion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve based on staff abbreviated findings of fact.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Kibler. second by Commissioner Doms. Any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, call the roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Domes,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Kibler,
Yes.
Leider,
Yes.
Minham,
Yes.
Nesdal,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Pontanila.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to agenda item number 6, zoning map amendment and preliminary plat, Highlands at North Hill, public hearing request by Ackerman Surveying representing 701 Development for a zoning map amendment from R4 Plan Residential District, R2 Two-Family Residential District with the PUD overlay to solely R2 Two-Family Residential District to a PUD overlay. The proposal includes preliminary plat to consolidate numerous twin home lots to accommodate single-family dwellings mimicking the developed pattern of the Highlands at North Hill 3rd Edition. With that, we'll turn it over to staff for report.
Thank you, Chairman Offerdahl, and members of the commission. So the subject properties are bound in white on this map, and the 300-foot buffer is noted in pink. So this property is located west of the new high school site and abutting the bypass. This would be the other half of the subdivision that was part of a city-initiated rezone last month. So this is one of the arrested developments. For those that aren't here, maybe just tuning in for this half of the broader discussion, I'll kind of give a brief background on the arrested development, very brief. This portion of the sub includes 79 platted lots, none of which have completed infrastructure. So with regard to what is an arrested development, it's effectively a subdivision that's platted, it's legally entitled, but it does not have the supporting infrastructure to obtain building permits. So in this case, those property boundaries bounded in light blue. Clearly you can see the stub road, it ends right there. There may be some utilities underground, but ultimately we couldn't issue building permits without a road feeding into the driveways that would serve those dwellings. So the proposal would take those 79 platted lots and consolidate them into 31 platted lots. 29 of them would be single-family residential lots, and then 2 lots would be slated for future development. Now, these future development lots would be Lot 13, Block 1, and then Lot 6, Block 3, would be required to come back before Planning Commission for a zoning map amendment, an evaluation and a recommendation to City Council. City Council would have to make the final determination and all that. Just like any other proposal, at this point, they're just putting a pin in those 2 lots for future development review, but they know what they want to work on with regard to the other 29 lots. So there will be neighborhood notifications sent out along with that process, and they'll be back here for that discussion at a future date. So it's not just anything goes there, it's definitely something that needs to be evaluated, notified. I just wanted to point that out. With regard to so last month I talked about some of the pedestrian connectivity, which was important for this residential development. This plat includes that easement. I kind of illustrated that last month with regard to a proposed connection. They're showing that proposed connection as an easement. I'm highlighting it here in the red. It's a 20-foot walkway easement, and then it would have to be installed by fall 2024, coinciding with the North High School opening. So the applicants provided a basic narrative and outlining their intentions with single-family uses and overall lot sizes. Again, their proposal, the proposed lot sizes and overall arrangement, it aligns with Highlands at North Hill 3rd. So everything north and east along Ivory Street has a similar lot width, similar size. It's really an extension of what's already within that subdivision for single-family residential. What I did was take their letter of intent and generated a summary of the elements that should constitute the PUD plan if this is approved. It covers the lot sizes, use is limited to single-family residential, and And then most importantly, requires the 2 lots slated for future development to come back before Planning Commission, as I just mentioned. So as well, the PUD plan format matches the approval for the other half of the development, so there'll be some consistency across the whole development, and which will provide clarity and overall ease of use for future staff, and then also to those individual property owners if they'd like to review what they're able and not able to do. And here's the findings of fact. They're provided in staff's written report. In short, the Planning Commission has the authority to hear the case and provide a recommendation to City Council. Staff is recommending approval of the zoning map amendment and the preliminary plat with three conditions. So, as is customary, excess water service lines, if any, should be removed that will not be utilized due to the reduction in the number of lots. Stormwater management plan is required, and connection fees are required. These are all standard fare for any development. So we include these either by policy in the engineering. Engineering handles these conditions, and so they've been included. And I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the staff?
This is Commissioner Bauman. I do have a question for Mr. Van Dyke.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Van Dyke, just kind of knowing that, affordable housing and making sure that we have a wide variety of housing stock within our community is something that we're looking forward to on the horizon with the new comprehensive plan and just making sure that we can serve our residents the best way possible. Do you feel like the benefit of moving away from maybe a smaller R2 or, twin home duplex setup is a greater benefit, moving away from that in the name of being able to jumpstart this arrested development is of greater benefit than holding on to those smaller lot sizes for maybe a smaller, more affordable size starter home for families, if you're following my line of questioning?
I am definitely. Chairman Offerdahl, Vice Chair Bauman, absolutely. It's certainly something to consider with regard to the reduction in density. However, keeping in mind that there are numerous lots that are still vacant within the subdivision that would accommodate the twin home concept. There's still a lot of vacant parcels there. It's almost like the subdivision was almost overdone with twin homes. There's still a lot in Bolton Heights that's just to the west. There are quite a few twin home developments platted, ready to go today. It's just market-wise, it would take numerous years to actually build that out. I think this is more something that we're seeing a need for in the community is these small lot, single-family residential. That's something that is a bit more of a rarity within the city right now versus the twin home lots. So I do think given the smaller than average and typical lot size that we're still achieving desired effect, as well as I'd also say we're not 100% sure what's going in the future development. And so if density and the number of units within a particular area, especially adjacent to the high school, is of significant importance to the community and to this commission and city council, then we should evaluate that in depth when that proposal is ready for us to review.
Sounds good. Thanks for the info.
Thank you. Any other questions for the city staff? All right, seeing none, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody in attendance that wishes to speak on behalf of this agenda item?
Good evening. I'm Sean Weeks with Ackerman S. Vold, representing the applicant, and we concur with the staff report. I'm just introducing myself. If you would like to pose any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Weeks? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition to this project? Anybody want to speak on behalf or against this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Turn it over to the commissioners for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve based on staff findings of fact.
Commissioner Kibler, motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leiter.
Chairman Offerdahl, can I just clarify that includes the conditions as well?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Still agree with your second?
Agree.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, any discussion on this?
Commissioner Bauman here. I would just like to once again thank city staff and the developer for kind of coming together and meeting in the middle to help jumpstart the arrested development. It's really nice to see some of these lots within current city bounds be built in and create that density. And I do know it takes a lot of work on both parties' part. So just a public thank you for all the work you've done.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Domes,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Kibler,
Yes.
Leiter,
Yes.
Menem,
Yes.
Nesdall,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
and Pontanila.
Yes.
And motion carries.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to agenda item number 7, zoning map amendment and conditional use permit for Norham Heights Edition. Public hearing request by Alejandro Lopez, representing Lopez LLC, owner for zoning map amendment from R3 multiple residence district to C2 general commercial districts for the purpose of developing a commercial recreational facility and a series of commercial shops. Application also includes a conditional use permit for enclosed warehousing related to the commercial shop use. That will turn it over to city staff for findings and report.
Thank you, Chairman Offerdahl and members of the commission. So the subject property is bound in white, and the 300-foot buffer is denoted in pink. The property is located southwest of Walmart. The property is approximately 3.7 acres in size, and it's right abutting city limits. So the current zoning is R3, which follows the regulations of the RM Medium Density Residential District. This district permits a multitude of residential building types, including single-family, twin home apartments. The current zoning is likely a remnant of surrounding commercially developed properties and is the last remaining piece to be developed commercially. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on why that would be awkward. But so should the property move forward as a residential development, access to public right-of-way would require traversing through commercial parking lots. And while this is relatively standard for commercial property, it would be bizarre to see this land use configuration as it pertains to public right-of-way access. So this is atypical. It is a harmonious buffering of adjacent land uses. However, access creates a situation where it's just strange nonetheless. So certainly wouldn't want to necessarily see this or try to give guests direction to our house. The future land use designation for the property is commercial. And the proposed plat will subdivide the platted lot into 3 lots. The property, as previously discussed, is served by private access and utility easement, provides the utilities, and the proposed lots all meet the bulk requirements of the proposed C2 zone. As you can see, the approximate acreage there, anywhere from 0.6 acres to 2.1 acres. So here's the site concept as far as the layout for the proposed shop condos or enclosed warehousing buildings. Lot 1 is proposed to be a boxing gym. It's a 6,500 square foot boxing gym. Lot 2 is reserved for future development. And then Lot 3, this is the approximately 2.1 acre piece of property, is will house 15 shop condo units if approved. And this is the premise of the conditional use permit application. So here's some images of their intention to, the structures, the elevations of the structures that they're intending to put there. In the end, the facades meet the minimum design requirements in the land development ordinance for C2, so which requires more than our light industrial district. And I think it's pretty evident that they're using a bit improved materials on the outside than you typically see in a light industrial, which is generally a lot more ribbed steel. So these will be used as subcontractor shops or personal storage. And what I mean by subcontractor shops, these are like HVAC, plumbing, subcontractors, things of that nature that need a lot of storage. They fill up a cube truck. It's an origin, not a destination, right? So you're going to, maybe yourself or an employer or two, you're going to meet there, load up the truck, and you're going to go off-site to a job and perform the crux of your commercial activity off-site. So that's what these enclosed warehousing uses are going to be. On the flip side, it could be used as personal storage. You might have excess vehicles, RVs, things of that nature. You have an excess. I'll go over some of the limitations of these as far as the conditions after I go through the findings of fact. So these are the findings of fact. They're in the written report. And the Minot Planning Authority has to hear this case and then provide a recommendation for the zoning map amendment. And the plat will be handled via minor plat, actually. So that'll go straight to City Council. And the conditional use permit, though, its final decision is going to be with the Planning Commission tonight. So I'll go through some of the conditions that staff is recommending. In the end, we're recommending approval of the rezone and the conditional use permit. And the first condition should be the obvious one. So the property must obtain a zoning map designation of C2 General Commercial District. So we don't want to see the shop condos on the residentially zoned property. Uses of the site or any building for residential dwelling purposes, retail, auto repair, or human habitation is prohibited. So this is a use standard that applies to all enclosed warehousing. We don't want to see the enclosed warehousing uses be a retail hub. They're just not, typically not constructed to accommodate retail activity. So with regard to health and safety, sprinkling, things of that nature, not always ripe for accommodating that. As well as parking requirements for these uses are very different than our retail-oriented uses. So you'll notice there's not a lot of parking here. And there's a reason, because it's, again, an origin, not a destination. And to add this clarification, so I know when we say commercial activity, it's kind of vague, since pretty much everything that's not residential, it has some commercial tie to it. So add this clarification that commercial activity is limited to storage of inventory, including vehicles to support work performed off-site. Office space related to this commercial activity is permitted. Personal storage is permitted. So the development must comply with all applicable landscape standards, including related to buffer yards. There's a manufactured home park zoning to the west of this. So this will require a 20-foot landscape strip. That is included in their site plan already. They're accommodating it. So the layout includes all of the landscaping that would, at least as far as the depths, and we may not have a formal landscape plan, but we have at least approximately where the landscaping is going to go. Building design and site layout, including garage door style, design elements, accent materials, and building size and distribution shall generally conform to those provided in Exhibit 2. So typically with the conditional use permits, we're going to tie it to a site plan and overall layout, and that's what this condition does. And then here's the 3 standard fare conditions from engineering. So stormwater management plan is required, site plans required for development, and then connection fees will be required as well. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the city staff?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, John, I wonder if you could just explain a little bit more either the easement or the right-of-way that those living in the subdivision have to have across the parking lot, and also a little bit more about I think you said the conditional use permit that's required for this development?
Absolutely. Chairman Offerdahl, Commissioner Kibler, here we are. Right. So as you can see, 40th Avenue Southwest, it ends up stubbing. You can see the black lines on this are the property boundaries. So where it's effectively open from Highway 83 and open through 40th Avenue Southwest, that's the end. That's the terminating point of the public right-of-way. So from then, it becomes private property, and there's private, public, and utility, or private access and utility easements that serve these other commercial developments further off of Highway 83. So if there were to be a residential development, because it's zoned R3, any residential development would take access through effectively the Walmart parking lot, which would be awkward. And that's why I'm saying that the commercial zone is much more appropriate than the residential zone, because that's a very abnormal arrangement of the lots and the zoning designations and the uses to literally require the same entryway as you would utilize to, say, gain access to GameStop or a restaurant or Walmart. So it's abnormal. So that's what I'm talking about with these access.
So future residents would have to get an easement?
No, so for clarification, the residents to the west have their own access off of 37. They don't take access directly off of Broadway.
Oh, okay, they have access separately?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Correct. This development would not, the only access they could have is off of 40th or traversing through an access easement through Walmart's parking lot to 37th. With regard to the conditional use permit, so a zoning map amendment's required because we're going from R3 to proposed C2. So we want to see this as commercial more than residential for, at least this is a very good reason why we wouldn't want to see it developed residentially. Enclosed warehousing is, by and large, it's an industrial activity, a light industrial activity. However, we do permit it conditionally in C2 when it's appropriate. One of the main reasons this is the more appropriate location is because it's off the beaten path. So those other general commercial lots have the benefit of having frontage exposure off of the highway. That would be why Walmart located right there, and then there's a retail strip as well. However, for general commercial, being tucked so far back now lends itself to being a very awkward retail location. It's both somewhat awkward retail location and somewhat a very awkward residential location. So there's some commercial uses, or in this case, at least part of it would be a light industrial use, are appropriate because it's off the beaten path. They don't need that exposure. Again, it's an origin, not a destination. So people are going to be going to work there and then heading out to the community. They have great highway access. Again, the indoor recreation, which would be the boxing gym, that's a great location. The unknown lot at this time, there's a number of uses that would find that to be appropriate. Probably not a retail, just because it's just has no exposure. So that's kind of the premise of the conditional use permits. We don't necessarily want to see those right up on the highway. That's valuable commercial retail land by and large. And so we want to make sure we're evaluating them spatially within the community to make sure they're in the appropriate location. We're not eating up our valuable land for enclosed warehousing buildings. There's plenty of other locations that
And that conditional use is a permanent status, right?
Yes, it's a legal right that will run with the land once granted, and those conditions just make sure that, as is common, shop condos, some people believe, oh, well, I'll live in there. Well, no, you can't live in there. And then if there's a misuse of the particular structures, we're able to bring it back before Planning Commission for consideration on revoking the permit if it's grossly misused, and there's no corrective action taken on behalf of the property owners. So.
For this, did those in the R1 or the single-family housing areas have to be notified about this meeting?
Yes, so the property owner for the manufactured home park was notified. We don't notify all the tenants. So the primary owner of the entire park would have been notified.
Of the park, is that a mobile home park?
It is a mobile home park.
Okay.
Or a manufactured home park, yeah.
Any other questions for city staff? All right, seeing none, go ahead and open the public meeting or the public hearing. Anybody in attendance wish to speak on behalf of this agenda item?
You're probably going to see more of me than you want tonight, various applications, but Sean Weeks with Ackerman Esvold, representing the applicant. We again concur with the staff report, and if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Weeks? Thank you, sir. We'll call you up if you got anything else. Anybody else wish to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Anybody wish to speak in opposition of this agenda item? Anybody wish to speak on behalf or against this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Turn it over to the commissioners.
Make a motion to approve based on findings of facts and staff recommendations, including the 9 conditions.
I'd say,
Okay, motion by Commissioner Leiter,
I'd second that motion.
second by Commissioner Kibler. Any discussion? No discussion. Call the roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Domes,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Kibler,
Yes.
Leiter,
Yes.
Minham,
Yes.
Hesdahl,
yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
and Pontanila.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve carries. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8, conditional use permit, North Side 5th Edition. Public hearing request by Ackerman Esvold representing Galen Schmidt for the conditional use permit for enclosed warehousing to construct 10 shop condo units. Turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Chairman Offerdahl and members of the commission. So there's a method to the order. At the end of the day, we happen to have 2 conditional use permits in C2 zoning related to enclosed warehousing. So I've kind of gone over what those are, so I'm not going to repeat myself unless I need to, but save this one. This one's a little less involved. So the subject properties are bound in white, and the 300-foot buffer is denoted in pink. The property is located near the northeast corner of 36th Avenue Northeast and North Broadway. A new Dollar General just opened to the south of the subject property. The applicant is working toward combining the 2 properties into one to serve the proposed development. So the zoning is C2, General Commercial District, and the surrounding area is C2 and M1 Light Industrial District. An apartment complex resides immediately to the east of the subject properties. The future land use for the subject property is commercial. And as mentioned previously, the 2 lots will be consolidated into one, and the layout will comprise of 5 buildings, each maintaining 2 separate units. This is effectively the layout that is being proposed. That blue line is going to denote the landscaping that's being proposed, and there will be a 20-foot separation from the residential to the east, similar to the other ones. This one has a lot of similarities. I also want to point out that this is also a for lack of a better term, like a rearage lot. It has a flag that comes out to provide access directly onto the frontage road, but otherwise there's other properties buffering it that have more exposure, again, to Highway 83, North Broadway, that are also Zone C2, which is, like I said, Dollar General is not going to show up in this image because it's probably 2020, 2021. And then there's another lot to the west of the proposed. Yeah, we can see it here. So you see the lot boundaries are black. We got one building immediately to the west on the north side, and then Dollar General is going to be along the south side, and then there's that center commercial lot abutting the frontage road. That's for future development. This is not part of the planning, but it's already platted, zoned appropriately for commercial. So something will go there at some point. So here's the findings of fact, and it can be found in staff's written report. The Planning Commission has the authority to make a final decision on this, since it's just a conditional use permit. Staff's recommending approval with two conditions. I'm sorry, not with two conditions, with conditions. So minor plat is required to consolidate the lots to meet the minimum lot size requirements. Enclosed warehousing, one of the use standards is a 2-acre lot. Uses of the site or any building for residential dwelling. This is repetitive, so this is the housing thing that I discussed just on the last one with regard to making sure that we understand what is commercial activity, what is not, and then that residential dwelling is not permitted. Development must comply with all the applicable landscape standards. And then this one, additional landscaping will be installed along the west, north, and south boundaries of the property to include at a minimum a 10-foot depth from the parking area to the property boundary. Parking lot landscaping along the west, north, and south boundaries must include 1 tree. So this is just street tree information. And then the last 3 are related to standard fare that I discussed in the last couple items. So it's a total of 9 conditions, and I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for city staff?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Van Dyke, just a point of clarification. I mean, this looks like a double flag lot. If this were anything other than a commercial zoning situation, would there have to be another access route to this area, or are there circumstances in which you have to have 2 access routes rather than one that I don't know about?
Yeah, typically, so, and that would be for, in case one was closed, and then for health and safety, you'd have a secondary access. That's going to be upwards of like 100 residential units. Typically, you'd have a secondary access. Commercial, it's probably going to be more on the overall layout of the site. You're going to have, I mean, if you think back to the Walmart case, we had 2, but those 2 are very distant from one another. So it's more the size of the property and what that's going to warrant whether or not you need multiple.
And so that was a decision you made, that this is acceptable with only one route, or is there criteria for this?
Sure. And thanks for asking. So no, this was already platted this way previously. It's gone through a couple replats, but this land has no alternative access. We actually didn't want to have access directly onto 36 from the Dollar General store. I don't think they really cared as much either. But in this case, it's 2 lots that are flag lots. They will consolidate that, so it'll be 1 lot with direct access onto the frontage road. This is loosely resembles the configuration that was originally approved 5-10 years ago. So I know that parking lot used to be the airport overflow parking, and that's been there for some time. So it's kind of been in this configuration up until Dollar General purchased a lot of the property, and they went through a minor plat to rearrange some of the lots and build their store. So this is just more cleanup and facilitating for this development, future development.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for city staff?
This is Commissioner Bauman. I have one, if possible.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So just kind of understanding what the property is currently used at and what it's going to turn into. We are basically taking an overflow parking lot and turning it into then the 10 condo shop setup. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairman Offerdahl, Vice Chairman Bauman, that is correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions for city staff? Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. there anybody in attendance that wishes to speak on behalf of this agenda item?
One more time. Sean Weeks with Ackerman Esvold, representing the applicant. We concur with the staff report and happy to field any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Weeks? Okay. Thank you. Anybody else that wishes to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to this agenda item? Anyone wish to speak on behalf or against this agenda item? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Turn it over to the commissioners for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve based on staff finding of fact.
Motion by Commissioner Kibler,
Second.
second by Commissioner Leidert. Any discussion?
Chairman Offerdahl, can I just get clarification that includes the 9 conditions?
Yes, that includes all the conditions.
Same
I
on
apologize,
second.
I'm going to get that in the future.
Okay, any other discussion?
This is Commissioner Bauman. Just wanting to once again say it's exciting to see some of these projects come forward and to see our staff, our planning staff, work on kind of activating some of those properties in ways that look really, really big picture rather than just knee-jerk reaction. So thank you, staff, for working on this and working to bring those developers to the table. And yeah, just really positive to see.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Bauman,
Yes.
Domes,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Kibler,
Yes.
Leiter,
Yes.
Minham, Nestall,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
and Pontanila.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, motion is approved. Moving on to agenda item number 9 with other business. Any other business this month?
Chairman Offerdahl, not specifically, other than just a reminder that the minot2040.com is where the new preliminary draft comprehensive plan document is, and I certainly encourage you to look through that and provide any additional comments. This is also for the community as well to continue to look through that and chime in. There will be a public hearing before Planning Commission at the May Planning Commission meeting, so and then we'll present it to City Council. So there's still time there's always time to discuss the document up until it's adopted.
Can you repeat that address
Can
one
you
more
repeat
time?
Yeah, it's minot2040.com.
Okay. Thank you. Any other business?
No.
All right, seeing none, meeting's adjourned.